The best haircuts for your face shape after 60 can make you look instantly more radiant, not because they're trendy or dramatic, but because they work with who you are today. As we age, our features naturally shift. The roundness of our cheeks, the definition in our jawline, even the way light moves across our face, everything softens just a bit. But here's what often gets overlooked. Your haircut plays a quiet but powerful role in how those changes are perceived. The same cut you've worn for years might now weigh things down, or create shadows where you'd rather have softness. It's not a mistake, it's just a habit that may no longer serve you. And that's what this video is here to gently explore. Together, we'll look at 6 haircut styles that flatter different face shapes after 60. Each one brings out something specific: your eyes, your cheekbones, your smile, without asking for a big change or a high-maintenance routine. It's not about looking younger. It's about looking refreshed, balanced, and fully yourself. Because a small adjustment in shape can bring surprising lift, light, and confidence. So if you've ever wondered whether your current cut is still right for your face, or if you're simply ready for a soft, graceful update, you're in the right place. Let's take a closer look, starting with one shift that makes a real difference. Number 1, the soft layered bob for rounder faces. Let's begin with a haircut that works beautifully for women with rounder face shapes, the soft layered bob. You might have worn a classic bob in the past, one that stops right at the chin, cut clean and even. It's a style that once felt neat, modern, even easy to manage. But for rounder faces, especially after 60, that sharp line at the jaw can unintentionally emphasize fullness and make the face appear shorter or heavier than it is. That's where things start to shift. As we age, facial volume tends to settle lower. What was once a youthful roundness becomes softness through the cheeks and jawline. So when a blunt cut meets a soft jaw, the effect can feel boxy or even unbalanced. The better approach? A bob with subtle layers and just a bit of length below the chin. These layers don't need to be dramatic. In fact, the key is strategic softness. Layers around the lower cheek and neck area create gentle movement, drawing the eye downward in a more fluid way. This elongates the face slightly and brings a lightness that a one-length cut often can't. It's not about hiding your face shape. It's about enhancing your natural proportions. The soft layers help lift the eye area while allowing the lower face to feel more open and graceful. And that little extra length? It avoids the harsh line at the jaw, replacing it with flow. If left unaddressed, a blunt chin-length bob can actually make the face feel heavier and age it unnecessarily. It shortens the neck visually, closes off the sides of the face, and can sometimes even draw attention away from your eyes. You don't need to go short or choppy. Just adding soft, blended layers below the cheekbones and extending the length slightly past the chin can transform how the cut moves with your face. It creates what many women describe as a lifted look, even though nothing about it is stiff or styled. And if you're thinking, but I've always had this bob, it's familiar, it works, that makes complete sense. You probably chose it years ago because it framed your face in a way that felt clean and easy. And it was the right choice then. It once made things easier. That's why you kept it. But now, your face has evolved, and your hair can evolve with it. It's not about starting over, it's about adjusting with care. The soft, layered bob doesn't ask you to reinvent your style. It just adds grace, balance, a quiet lift that brings the focus back where it belongs, your expression. Sometimes comfort needs a little updating, and when it does, small changes go a long way. Number 2. The soft shag for square jawlines. That alone is worth changing. But it's not the only one. Let's talk about a face shape that's often admired for its strength, but sometimes needs a little softness in the haircut to create balance. The square jawline. You might notice this in photos more than in the mirror. A straight across jaw can look bold and structured, but in the wrong haircut, it can also appear severe. And if the hair itself is cut too straight, too sharp, or ends right at the jawline, it can exaggerate the boxiness of the face instead of softening it. And that brings us to something important. Structure is beautiful, but too much of it in the wrong places can make a face look heavier, not stronger. This is where a soft shag haircut can work wonders. The modern shag isn't what it used to be decades ago. Today's version is airy, feathered, and layered in a way that adds movement without chaos. For women with square-shaped faces, a soft shag lifts volume toward the crown and around the cheekbones, while letting the ends stay loose and wispy near the jaw. Why does that matter? Because that contrast, volume higher up, softness at the bottom, visually lightens the lower half of the face. Instead of drawing the eye to the jawline, it brings focus to your eyes and cheek area. It's like shifting the spotlight without removing the stage. If ignored, many square-faced women end up in cuts that stop hard at the jaw. The visual effect? Heaviness, drag, a boxed-in look that feels dated or overly angular. And it's easy to fall into, because strong lines used to be seen as polished. But now, what you want is polish with flow. The shag provides that. It's not messy. It's not overly styled. It gives just enough texture to create movement and lightness. Two things that become more important as our hair thins or loses natural bounce. And if you're thinking, I was always told to go short and neat, that it looks more put together, you're not alone. That advice came from a time when simplicity meant control. But today, simplicity means effortlessness. You made the best choice you could with what you had. That matters. Now, you get to choose differently, with more knowledge, more options, and more freedom to ask, what actually flatters me now? The soft shag doesn't try to change your face. It works with it. It allows your features to settle into their natural strength while gently taking the edges off. Less friction, more flow. That's the power of an easy shape that moves with you, not against you. Number 3, long layers with side-swept bangs for oval faces. So how can you work with that instead when your face shape is already well-balanced? That's the quiet challenge of the oval face. Oval faces are often considered the most versatile shape: soft jawline, gently curved cheekbones, balanced proportions. But here's what's easy to miss. When everything is already even, the wrong haircut can flatten that natural harmony instead of enhancing it. You might have kept your hair at one length, long and straight, or just tucked behind the ears. It's simple, it feels familiar, but sometimes that simplicity becomes invisible. A long, single-length cut can lay everything down, hiding your features instead of framing them. That's where long layers with side-swept bangs make a subtle, meaningful difference. These aren't dramatic layers. They're soft, graduated cuts that begin around the collarbone and flow downward. Paired with a gentle, side-swept bang, this style introduces movement where things used to fall flat. Why it works so well for oval faces is all about balance. You don't need to fix anything. You just want to bring life to your natural lines. The long layers create flow, drawing the eye down in a graceful curve, while the bangs help guide attention back up to your eyes, your cheekbones, your natural expression. It's like opening a curtain that's been closed just a little too long. You're not changing the shape. You're allowing it to breathe. If left unchanged, a one-length cut on an oval face can lead to a tired look. Not bad, not harsh, just uninspired. The hair pulls downward, offering no visual lift. It can make the face seem longer, even thinner, especially as hair loses volume over. That's why movement is so key. Side-swept bangs can soften a high forehead. Layers can bounce slightly at the shoulders. And all of it happens without fuss. No curling, no styling battles. Just shape that does the work for you. And if you're thinking, but I've always liked my hair long, it feels feminine, it feels like me, you're absolutely right. Long hair can be beautiful at any age, but it doesn't have to mean heavy or flat. It once gave you that sense of elegance. Maybe it still does, but now it can also give you lightness, shape, and dimension without letting go of what feels like you. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing differently. With just a few layers and a soft sweep across the forehead, you're not just maintaining a look, you're upgrading it, quietly, confidently. A small change, repeated often, becomes transformation. And this one starts with a single angle of softness. Number 4, chin-length bob with tapered ends for heart-shaped faces. Let's unpack what that really means. when your face naturally draws attention upward. Heart-shaped faces are striking. With broader foreheads and narrower chins, they carry a certain brightness, especially through the eyes and cheekbones. But as we age, that contrast between upper and lower face can become more pronounced. And that's the tricky part. What once looked lifted can start to feel top-heavy. You might notice your hair tends to sit fuller at the crown or temples, while the lower part of the face feels like it's been left behind. Especially if your haircut ends right at the cheekbones or stays too full at the top. It pulls the visual weight up, leaving the chin feeling even smaller and more pointed. That's why the chin-length bob with tapered ends is such a quiet game changer. It brings volume down right where the face needs balance. By stopping at the chin and subtly tapering the ends inward, this cut draws the eye gently down, softening the lower face without hiding it. It's the opposite of a stacked bob, which often builds height at the back and exaggerates the upper half of the face. The tapered bob works more like a frame, rounding out sharp angles and filling in where the face narrows. And for women over 60, this is especially helpful. As skin loses elasticity and the jawline softens, this cut can restore a sense of contour, without sharp lines, without fuss. It hugs the face gently, offering structure while still feeling light and effortless. If overlooked, a mismatched haircut on a heart-shaped face can make the forehead feel larger and the chin sharper than it actually is. The wrong fringe, too much lift at the roots, or a length that cuts off at the wrong spot, all of it can throw off your natural balance. But this style doesn't ask for perfection. It works because it flows downward. The inward tapered ends help soften the jaw, add a little fullness where needed, and let the upper face relax. Pair it with a slight side part or soft side-swept fringe, and it quietly redirects attention without hiding your features or overcomplicating your routine. And if you're thinking, I've always liked a bit of volume up top, it felt youthful, you're right to feel that way. It once gave your face lift, especially in younger years when the lower face held more natural fullness. It probably felt right because it helped everything feel in place. But now your face has changed, and that lift may be asking to come from somewhere else. You don't need to lose volume. You just need to move it, from crown to chin, from top-heavy to softly balanced. It's a quiet change, but a meaningful one. Because when your haircut brings your features into harmony, you start to feel more at home in your own reflection. Number 5, shoulder-length cut with face-framing layers for long faces. What might work better when your face shape feels just a little too long? A long face shape has its own elegance. There's a certain grace in that length, the way the features stretch vertically, the refined lines. But past a certain age, what once felt sophisticated can start to feel a little drawn. It's not that anything's wrong, it's just that gravity starts doing its work. The cheeks lose some volume, the lower face elongates slightly, and suddenly, your reflection looks more pulled down than you remember. And when your hair follows the same vertical path, long, straight, and no layers, it doubles that effect. That's where a shoulder-length cut with soft, face-framing layers makes all the difference. Think of this style as visual balance in motion. Instead of dragging the eye downward, these layers redirect attention horizontally, softly hugging the cheekbones, curving near the jaw, and stopping just above the shoulders. It creates width where your face naturally needs more presence. The shoulder grazing length also helps. Too long, and the hair continues that downward pull. Too short, and you risk highlighting the length of the face. But when the cut stops at the shoulders with soft inward movement, it breaks that vertical line just enough to reintroduce softness and roundness. And the layers, they're not bold or choppy. They're designed to fall in gentle curves, opening up the middle of your face rather than letting it sink into the background. They give the illusion of lift without any styling tricks, without mousse or heat tools, just natural shape doing the work for you. If left unchecked, haircuts that are too long and unlayered can make a long face feel even longer, especially when the hair thins with age. The result is often a feeling of being weighed down or invisible. even if the style technically works. You might not notice it right away, but over time, you may catch yourself wondering why your features feel less defined, or why your smile doesn't seem to shine the way it used to in photos. And if you're thinking, but I've always worn my hair long, it felt like part of me. Of course you have. That length might have once added elegance, softness, femininity. It once gave you a sense of flow. But now, that same length might be pulling the face down instead of lifting it up. And the truth is, you don't have to give up the feeling of long hair to regain balance. You just need to bring shape into it. Crease-framing layers and shoulder-length softness give you the best of both worlds. Length that feels light and structure that feels natural. It's graceful, it's effortless, and most of all, it brings attention back to your features. Sometimes it's not about doing more, it's about doing differently, especially when a few soft curves can bring everything back into focus. Number 6. Textured Pixie with soft volume for diamond faces. Here's what often gets missed. When your face already has natural angles. Diamond-shaped faces are beautifully sculpted. High cheekbones, a narrow forehead, and a more pointed chin create a naturally striking look. But for women over 60, those sharp angles can begin to feel a little too defined. As the skin around the cheeks and jaw loses firmness, the features that once felt elegant may suddenly seem a bit harsh. And when your haircut stays tight to the scalp or too flat across the sides, it can exaggerate that effect. The angles become the focus. The softness disappears, and the whole face starts to feel a little sharper than it really is. That's why a textured pixie with soft volume at the crown works so well here. It's short, yes, but not severe. The magic is in the texture. A pixie cut that's lightly layered around the top and crown creates lift without height that feels artificial. It gives structure through the middle of the face, right where the eyes and cheeks need visual support. And when those layers are feathered softly along the sides, they help round out the sharpness of the cheekbones and ease the taper at the chin. It's the kind of cut that brings focus to your expression, not just your bone structure. It highlights your smile, your eyes, the energy in your face, not just its angles. If skipped over, many diamond-faced women end up with cuts that pull too tight or sit too flat. Short bobs that end at the cheekbones, slicked styles that remove volume, or pixies that are cropped too close. And the result? A look that can feel severe, exposing every edge without offering balance. That might have worked when your skin was firmer or your hair fuller, but now, softness matters just as much as shape. And if you're thinking, I've always hesitated about short hair, what if it's too harsh? That hesitation makes sense. You may have seen pixies that look sharp, almost masculine, and thought, that's not me. And maybe it wasn't. But today's textured pixie isn't about toughness. It's about intention. It once felt safer to keep hair longer, to soften things with length. But now, softness can come from shape, from texture, from how hair moves, not just how far it falls. With just the right amount of volume and a few light layers, a pixie cut becomes playful, feminine, and refined. It takes the pressure off your features and lets your whole face breathe. You don't have to hide your angles. You just don't have to lead with them. This kind of cut lets you keep the elegance of your bone structure while restoring warmth and flow. You've earned your ease. Let your haircut reflect it, with a shape that lifts, softens, and feels as natural as the smile you wear with it. By now, you've seen how the right haircut doesn't just change how your hair looks. It changes how your whole face feels. A soft layer, a subtle angle, a shift in length or parting. These aren't dramatic moves, but for a face that's changed over time, as all of ours do, they can be deeply grounding. Not to reinvent who you are, but to reflect who you've quietly become. Maybe you recognized yourself in one of these shapes, or maybe you saw parts of yourself in more than one. That's okay. The beauty of aging isn't in fitting into boxes. It's in knowing yourself well enough to choose what feels right. The truth is, there's no single best haircut after 60. There's only the one that lifts your features, suits your routine, and makes you feel more seen when you catch your reflection. And that's what we hope this video has helped you do. see yourself a little more clearly. If you found even one small tip that gave you an idea, a spark, or a gentle nudge towards something new, we'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe for more videos like this, calm, practical, and always centered on what feels real. Because this chapter isn't about chasing trends. It's about choosing shape that supports the life you're living now. And sometimes that begins with a pair of scissors and a little softness.